And the art director sat down and very quietly flipped through my book and then just kind of closed it and passed it back to me and said, if you would be willing to cancel all the rest of your appointments, we would love to sign you as our new designer. And just like everything in that moment, just I burst into tears. It was an absolute yes. And I've been with them ever since. And so it was just that moment that changes you. Like you didn't ever think that this would come true, that this could happen. And then it did.
Welcome to A Creative Odyssey. I'm Ally Ryde. I'm a designer, an entrepreneur, and online educator obsessed with all things design, quilting, and creative business. Whether you're a seasoned quilter or you're just starting out, whether you're passionate about design and textiles, or whether you're a creative business geek who loves to nerd out on all the moving parts that go into making a creative business thrive, you are in the right place. I'm excited to share insights from my Creative Odyssey with you as I navigate design, creativity, and growing an online business on this journey as a creative entrepreneur. Are you ready to explore the possibilities of design and discover the world of creative business? It's time to embark on a Creative Odyssey. All right, well, today on this episode of A Creative Odyssey, I am welcoming a very special guest to the show, Bonnie Christine. Welcome to A Creative Odyssey.
Hello, Ally. I'm so excited to be here.
It's wonderful to be talking with you. And just before I gush all over you about how your program Immersion was the catalyst that made me into a creative entrepreneur, I'd love to hear a little from you. So, for those of you who don't know you yet, can you please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you, please?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Bonnie. I am a surface pattern designer. I'm an educator for creatives. I'm a mom. I live in a tiny town in the mountains of North Carolina. And my heart is really in seeing people do something that they love, that actually absolutely lights them up for their job, for their living. And so the way that we do that is very much through surface pattern design.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Amazing. I know that you kind of have your roots in quilting and sewing. You talk about making aprons back in the day when you started out doing a handmade goods store on Etsy. You got your start as a surface designer when you were working with your mom in her quilting shop. You got a big break in quilt market. My audience is full of quilters and people who love fabric. Can you tell me a little bit about that role that, quilting and fabric has really played in becoming who you are and what your business is today? Like, what was that beginning part about there?
Absolutely. So we talk about surface pattern design, but really my biggest goal always was to become a fabric designer. I don't know that I even knew the language of surface design when that was my big goal. So I grew up in a very creative home. My mom owned a quilt store, fabric store for many, many years. And I was just creative. I wasn't an artist. I wouldn't have said that, but I did love to craft and sew and all kinds of things. So kind of fast forward, I go to business school. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and that kind of, that itch to just kind of be free and in charge of your time and your location and that kind of thing, I knew I had no idea what I wanted to do though. So I graduated, married my high school sweetheart, moved back to my hometown, and I started working for my mom at her fabric store. And until I figured things out. And that was the plan. And so part of my job there was inventory management. And so we would meet with reps to decide what we wanted to carry in the store. And that was so fun. But I will never forget this one day. I was walking down an aisle with fabric on both sides of me, and I just saw it in an entirely different way. It hit me that this was someone's job, that someone was somewhere designing this fabric for their career. And it just sunk into my bones, like, this is what my calling is. This is what I need to do. This was 2009 when this happened. And so if you go back to that time period, there were not a lot of resources. So The whole industry was very kind of held close to the chest. There were no online classes. There were really hardly any online teaching like platforms. And so I was filling out the application to go back to art school, which would have been a huge uprooting for us at the time. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to give it my best effort and kind of do this on my own. So that kind of whirled me into 2 years of really piecemealing together just every corner of the internet and every, piece of research I could get my hands on. Meanwhile, I started selling handmade aprons and tea towels in an Etsy store. And I also started to blog. And I was blogging about the handmade industry and featuring other, handmade goods and items and artists and things like that. Mini quilters and fabric designers and things. And very much like in the DIY era, if you will. And so
Totally.
that had made me just enough to be able to kind of leave working at my mom's. We were still very much, struggling to make it at the time financially. But anyways, I kind of pieced this all together and I started pitching my work in 2012. And what I ended up doing was I was kind of pitching and kind of going back and forth with some companies. But I had been to Quilt Market many times because I worked with Mom. And so I knew that every art director for every fabric company is typically under one roof at one time. And so I started reaching out to them ahead of the fall quilt market in 2012 and asked if they would be willing to meet with me at market and look at my work. Scariest thing I've ever done, most vulnerable thing I've ever done. And I secured, I think about 8 to 12, something like that, interviews at Quilt Market. So off I go with my little portfolio, and I had ordered some fabric off of Spoonflower to make up like a mock-up quilt, and some other little goodies to just let them see what my vision was, right? And Quilt Market is huge, right? It's just giant.
Massive.
You couldn't walk the whole thing if you wanted to. I was there for 3 days, had some good meetings on the first day. So had one offer from a company, but it didn't, the gut didn't really check out. The gut check didn't really, it wasn't right. And then I got a lot of feedback, good feedback, no thank yous. I was feeling like I was probably going to go home with a lot of follow-up work to do. But on the second day, I had a meeting with Art Gallery Fabrics, which was at this point my number one choice. It's very nervous. And the art director sat down and very quietly flipped through my book and then just kind of closed it and passed it back to me and said, if you would be willing to cancel all the rest of your appointments, we would love to sign you as our new designer. And just everything in that moment, I burst into tears. It was an absolute yes. And I've been with them ever since. And so it was just that moment that changes you. You didn't ever think that this would come true, that this could happen. And then it did. And it just made me a believer in big goals and going after them. And it made me believe in other people going after their big goals too. And it changed everything.
Amazing. Such an amazing story. I've heard that story before, but it just gives me goosebumps at opening up a possibility. And that's kind of what I feel about that whole being able to create your own world, being able to create your own business, being able to create your own life and using creativity and things that you love to do that with. It's just an incredible story. Your creative entrepreneur journey looks a little bit different these days. So tell me a little bit about what it looks like for you now. I mean, you're still designing fabrics for Art Gallery, that's right?
That's right. I just finalized one about a month ago, so coming soon.
That's exciting. But that's kind of just part of your identity now. You have a whole other part of your identity. You're a creative entrepreneur, an online educator. Tell me a little bit about, what this beginning opened up for you and where you are now.
Well, when I look back, that was my biggest dream come true, right? And so I set off into the sunset to design, and I did. But about a year later, I think because of my blogging. So I had gotten a pretty good, like, I was super consistent. I had blogged for years. And so I had a pretty good kind of foundation there. And I think because of my kind of reputation in the blogging world, I got an email from a company called Creative Live that said, we don't really know what you do, but we know that your audience is like our audience. Is there anything you want to teach? And I'm like, well, this is one of those like, no, because I'm so nervous about this, but also, yes, I could never say no to this. So I'm like, yes, but the only thing that I know how to do is Illustrator specific to surface design. And they said, awesome, let's do it. So if you're familiar with this company, I'm living in North Carolina. They fly you out to San Francisco. You get thrown into hair and makeup. You work with a content producer for like 6 months, and you teach on a live stage for 3 days. So you have a little live audience in front of you, and then you have tens of thousands of people streaming live. And Ally, there's not even like a 3-second delay. Like whatever happens, happens. And so here I am teaching Illustrator live, and it went really well. It was, again, a giant leap out of my comfort zone. I remember going home just feeling so kind of satisfied at the experience, and also like, okay, now I can kind of get back to what I was doing before. And I just very slowly started to hear from students, and it turned out that like it was not just an Illustrator course, and it was not just a surface design course. I was specifically hearing from women all over the world who had, during this class, found permission to reconnect with their creativity, to take a leap, do something scary, right? Like, and then I started hearing about people leaving their day jobs and creating income, and being able to work at home with their children and retire their husbands and all these things. And it was a slow process. It took me a year or two. So I started to teach a little bit, but I thought, no, but what I really want to do is just license my work all over, which is, like you said, something that I still do and love. But very clearly came to me that the actual calling on my life was to help people do something with their life that they really love. And so I would say I fully kind of gave into this in 2018. And it took me a minute because I was also having children. So I had my first child in 2013, my second in 2015. And so if you know what that's like, it just takes you a minute. Like things were going, we were doing well, but there wasn't a lot of big space for like grandiose ideas and new ventures. So in 2018, I decided to teach the Immersion Course for the first time, which is a really big, super immersive, everything you need to know, comparable to college, degree for surface design. And so this is the course that you took and that we teach every year. And it is our great honor to serve the students who come through that experience.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal course. And like I've mentioned, this workshop that you're running at the moment, which leads in as kind of in celebration of the immersion program, this was really the catalyst. Like before this point, I was the same. I was a mom. I think my second daughter was about 1 when I took immersion. So I was kind of in that whole identity crisis. Like, what do I want to become? How can I get back to creativity more? Like I'd started making quilts again. I'd started crocheting things. And then this kind of like confluence of all these incredible things that came under this umbrella of surface pattern design that have then since led on to the things that I'm doing in my own creative business as well. Like that was absolutely the catalyst. And I have clients as well. They're the same. It is women who want to find what it is that they are going to do in their life. What is this passion? How can they tap into their creativity? How can they find that next step that they need to take? And I think that's really, really, really special work to be able to get to do.
Yes. Yeah. That's amazing. I know me and you are two peas in a pod, Ally.
So something that I really love to nerd out on is, this, like we just mentioned a little bit, there's this incredible crossover between surface design and quilt design, specifically surface pattern design. So let's just start with surface pattern design. Designing a repeat pattern for something like fabric or wallpaper. For people out there who don't know what this is yet, because I know when I first found out about this word, I was like, oh, there are people who do this. What is a repeat
Yes.
pattern? How can you create one? How do we get started with this?
Yeah. Okay. I love this because it's like the moment when you're like, oh, it's so good.
A moment.
So, well, we'll start at the top. There is this beautiful, insanely cool industry called surface design. Surface design is for every product in the world, including websites and packaging and products that have art on them. And so if you want to just consider maybe walking into anthropology, right? And you're seeing clothes with art on them and mugs and rugs and packaging, little perfume bottles and everything. That's called surface design. And one of the kind of sections in this industry is surface pattern design. And that is for any product that requires a seamlessly repeating pattern. And so that's things like fabric, wallpaper, gift wrap, tape, all kinds of stationery, and still some things like rugs and curtains and all of those. And so this is the one that we love. If you're a surface pattern designer, you can also license your work just in general surface design. But there's something about working in repeat and seeing your work placed in repetition that is so incredibly satisfying. There's actually science behind why our brains love to see things in seamlessly repeating patterns so much. It is just this moment of like, it's kind of like an addiction in the best way. Like you just obsess over seeing this stuff repeat. So
there's this real magic moment, right? I remember that moment when I first made a repeating pattern. I was like, whoa, it's kind of special. This whole idea that you can create something that is infinite almost. It's amazing.
Yes. So there are many different ways to do it. The way that I teach it is in Adobe Illustrator. And so I'm a big fan of the Adobe suite, and I'm a big fan of Illustrator because it allows you to work in vectors, which means that your work really maintains its integrity no matter what. You can easily change colors and recolor your work and also scale it. So you could design something small and put it on the side of the building. It'll still look beautiful. So it makes your work very universally applicable. Like any company in the world, any manufacturer, any industry can use work that has been built in Illustrator. So I teach Illustrator. I mean, really at the end of the day, I teach Illustrator, but it is very specific to what you need to know and fall in love with to create a career in surface design. But yeah, because I'm also fabric is my main gig, if you will. And my mom is a quilter, right? Well, we jam all the time together. So she can write my quilt patterns for me, and then I can mock them up in Illustrator first. So I can kind of mock up the pattern that I want, send it to her to actually make, proper instructions for it. And then you can also do things like ribbon, like French jacquard ribbon in Illustrator. That's also seamless repeating pattern, but it only repeats in one direction, right? It doesn't have to repeat from top to bottom. So super fun. I would say that notions in quilting fabric and textiles in general is one of like the biggest kind of sections of this industry. And many, many, many of my students come in as quilters or quilt pattern designers. And they really have gotten such wind under their wings with it within the quilting industry that they very much want to have their own fabric line as well. So pretty special to not only design the quilt pattern, but to also design, the actual fabric.
Absolutely. I think that's so special, especially because, you're a textile lover. I'm a textile lover. That whole tactile experience you have, the memories you can create with an heirloom type of a product like a quilt, even being able to make the fabric that goes into that quilt itself. I mean, it's just like next level. I think it's incredibly, incredibly special.
Like,
looks like you've got a few fabrics there for
right?
us. Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Beautiful.
This is like seeing your name on the selvage of fabric for the first time and also the 100th time. It never gets lost on me. It's just like, that's my name. That's my name.
That's amazing.
But,
it's
I
amazing.
think something that's very worth talking about is not only how fun it is to see your work on fabric, but just like how meaningful the work is. Because, as a quilter, quilts become treasured heirlooms in your family. And you typically make a quilt for someone really special or for a very special occasion. And so when someone chooses to use your fabric for that heirloom or the baby gift or the grandmother in the hospital or for their nursery or whatever, like it really impacts you in an entirely different way. It's like you're actually really being able to make an impact with the work that you put into the world, and to see someone choose your work for something that's going to live on in their family for so long. I mean, it's really legacy work, and yeah, it kind of gets emotional.
100%. Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And I think that just, as humans, our connection with textiles, as quilters, our connection and the time and love and effort that goes into something like that, take it to that next level, bring in your own fabrics designs as well. And like you mentioned, other people using your special prints in their own legacy heirlooms as well.
Yeah.
It's really an incredible special gift that you're able to bring about to the world. So all right, I'm going to get a little bit fangirl in here, Bonnie, because in last week's episode of A Creative Odyssey, if you haven't listened in yet, that's episode 11, I was talking about this one thing that set me on this path to becoming a creative entrepreneur, and it all started with taking your free Secrets to Success in Surface Pattern Design workshop. This is a few years ago now. This workshop has been a huge catalyst for everything that I'm doing now. This workshop is happening again all of this week. There's plenty of time to join. You can head over to allyryde.com/Bonnie. You can get access to this incredible free workshop. I am a tiny little example of the effect that this workshop has had on thousands of creatives all over the world. And like I said, this workshop is really held once a year in celebration of the incredible immersion program that Bonnie runs. A huge springboard for so many creatives as well. Yeah. Bonnie's here with us. Who better to tell us a little about what this immersion program is than the person herself? Can you let me know a little bit about this program for my listeners, please?
Yes. Do you want to start with the workshop? You want me to start there?
Sure. That'd be great.
Well, I'll breeze through the workshop. But the workshop, we really are just enamored at the feedback that we get every year. The goal of this workshop is to kind of just shed light onto what this is, what the opportunity is, and then give students clarity. Like, there's no way that you can come through this workshop and not know with certainty whether this is something that you want to pursue or not. And so for me, because of kind of my history, I was very overwhelmed at the beginning, like crushingly so. I couldn't figure out how to get started, so I didn't get started. I didn't know what the road looked like. So this workshop is 7 days long. It's 4 lessons and also a handful, 3 or 4 live sessions with me. And we just get it all answered. So I actually map out the entire process from start to finish. And then I have students kind of map it out as well with this incredible printable map that you have. And then we also talk about how to create income from your art and add in multiple streams of revenue. So absolutely worth just my goal is that every moment spent in this workshop for someone is just 100% worth it. So it is available until February 20th, and then it expires. So come and take that while you can, regardless of whether you're interested in the immersion program or not, because it will be applicable to anything that you do in your life as well. Now, the immersion program is also held once a year. It's a 10-week course, and it is truly immersive. So we start off with this module on how to gather inspiration. It's kind of a gentle, very beautiful introduction to the world, and it really kind of gets you connected to the things that you find inspiring. And then we open Illustrator. So we do an entire module called Introduction to Illustrator, and then the next module is Illustrator Advanced. And so you can come into this program with any amount of Illustrator knowledge, but I would say about half of our students are opening the program for the very first time. And then many of our students have some experience, and many also have 10 years working as a graphic designer, but maybe they're learning it for surface design for the first time. So you will leave the program as a complete professional in Adobe Illustrator, which I think is such a gift, of course, for your own career, but for so many other things as well. Like, learning this program has opened up more doors for me than anything else. And it's also really fun. Like, I even designed like the floor plan of our house in it and stuff. Like, you don't even, once you know it, you just like get carried away. Can absolutely design quilts in it and things like that too. So then we move
Absolutely.
into
Yeah.
repeating patterns. Yep. We there's a module on repeating patterns and all the different types of patterns. So if you're thinking about fabric, you have to take direction into consideration. We do border prints. We do different scales like hero prints and blender prints and coordinating prints. And then we really work to design in collections. So you can think of like a fabric collection that tells a story that you offer in two different colorways. Then we work on building a portfolio, either digital or like a hard copy of it that you could hold in your hands. And then we move into kind of the business side of it. So income from your art is where we talk about art licensing, creating income from your art in many different ways, multiple streams of revenue, POD or print on demand options, really understanding contracts and being able to negotiate a contract. And then the last module is on creative entrepreneurship, where we really make sure that you know how to maintain and grow a business and make revenue, because our goal is to eradicate like the starving artist, right? And so you can come through. I think that's what makes it really special, is that I have kind of the business background and the marketing background, but also that really creative art side as well. So we bring it together to where you can leave with an entirely new career if that's what you want. And so, Ally, also the course is entirely new this year, all newly recorded. There's over 100 brand new lessons that have never been taught before. And so we're pretty excited about it.
That's amazing. It is an incredible course. Immersion is absolutely the most perfect name for it. Like I said, I had a 1-year-old baby when I took this course, and I was just I went through the workshop, and at the end of the workshop, I came away, I knew exactly that I wanted to do this. This is what I wanted to do. When I found out about service pattern design, there's this incredible crossover, quilting, fabric, patterns, design. I mean, what's not to get excited about? It's incredible. And so that's what I discovered in the workshop to start out with. That was really like, wow, this world exists. This is amazing. And then knowing that you were the mentor that I needed to follow, having that whole program with incredible support, learning Illustrator from the ground up. It's an incredible program, and not just the design part, but like you said, also what are those next steps? How do I get licensed? How do I start making money from my art? How can I grow a business that is opening up all these opportunities for me beyond surface design, like all kinds of different things that opens up after that as well. It's just the beginning. It's an incredible beginning. And I get chills thinking back to those days, those early days in my business, before I even knew it was going to become a business, studying those modules of the Immersion course, getting inspired, learning so much about Adobe Illustrator, but also about, how to create my own life, how to create my own space to design in, but also how to create a business making money doing something that I love. So a big thank you from me to you, Bonnie, for all of the opportunities that you showed me and the possibilities that you helped me grab a hold of. Just a big thank you. I really, really appreciate it.
You're amazing. It's been so fun to watch you, and what a joy to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. It's been an incredible pleasure having you on A Creative Odyssey. Thank you. I am so excited to be enjoying this workshop again this year. I can't wait to see more of you there this week as well. I'm also going to be sharing some very special bonuses for those of you who are interested in taking those next steps and joining Bonnie for her immersion course as well. For all the details about the free workshop, get in there, listen to the lessons, consume all of the content that Bonnie has created for you so that you can come to that place where you can make that informed decision about whether this path of surface pattern design is something that you're ready to explore further. Head to allyryde.com/Bonnie to register for the workshop, learn about all the ins and outs of the surface pattern design industry and what your part in that might be. I would love for you to take that time to just jump in there. I think that Bonnie has been here telling us today about all of those opportunities that open up for you when you make that decision to take the leap, try something new, go after your big dreams, go after your big goals. I don't think that there is any better or more inspiring advice than that. I can't wait to see you in the workshop. Head to allyryde.com/Bonnie to register for your spot. And I look forward to hearing from you again soon. Thank you so much for joining us here in this very special episode with special guest Bonnie Christine. Until next time, stay curious and keep creating. Bye for now.